Let's do it.
All right, welcome to the first ever episode of Transform Hoops. This whole entire podcast is about understanding the athlete's side of their off-season training, individualized to what they do best, what works for them, and areas that they've grown over the years. First episode, my roommate, my best friend, Milton Gage, from Trotwood, Ohio, right in the middle of Dayton.
Mm-hmm.
Got my man listed at 6 feet. Got you 6 feet good?
Yeah, 6 feet. Perfect.
Perfect. Man. Well, it's a little backstory on us. We've been roommates for 4 years. We've been through a lot of stuff.
We have. Yeah.
Between he's had two He's had two major surgeries.
Mm-hmm.
I had an ankle surgery this year.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But I guess start us off with how did you even find your love for basketball itself?
Man, so I think with me, I kind of grew up into it. You know, I've had two older sisters who grew up playing basketball, played all through high school and then into the collegiate level. My dad played basketball and his whole side of the family played basketball. So I think, you know, I was just around it at an early young age, and I just knew that was going to be part of my life, and it still is to this day. So grew up into it, and at an early age, I think, a lot earlier than most other people who, you know, grew up playing basketball or just, you know, found a love for the game of basketball in general. I think I found it a lot sooner. So I knew basketball was going to be a big part of my life, a big piece of what I wanted to do and who I am, and stuck with it, and that's how we met. That's how we're here.
And so you went to Chaminade Julienne.
I did go to Chaminade Julienne.
When you were growing up, did you always know that you go to Chaminade? Because I know it's a private school.
Yeah.
And so is that your plan the whole entire time? Or
Yeah, for sure. I think so. I mean, like I said, my two older sisters, you know, grew up playing basketball. They both attended Chaminade Julienne, or CJ, as we call it. My dad also went to CJ, and I had a lot of uncles and even some aunts that also went to CJ. So it was kind of destiny. There are other good, you know, prominent schools, not just from an education standpoint, but pretty prestigious schools for basketball as well. But, you know, I felt like CJ was meant for me, and, you know, it's a place I called home long before I even got into high school, and so I knew I was going to go there for sure.
With high school basketball,
yeah,
the question what this whole podcast really talks about is, looking back, what is one thing that you did early on in your high school career when it came to working out?
Mm-hmm.
Whether that be the way you prepared for workout, how often you worked out. What's one thing that stuck with you to now? And what is one thing that, looking back, you're like, man, I wish I would have done that differently, just for high schoolers that are gonna watch this, and and what is something that they should be aware of, like, all right, like, I need to change that before.
Yeah,
as I get older.
That's a really good question. I think something I took pride in very, very early was just my commitment and my consistency. You know, I had older siblings who, you know, basketball was their life, and I had a dad. You know, that was his life as well. So I think for me, it was just like the consistency and the commitment. Very, very early on, you know, 6, 7, 8 years old, I was going to practices with my older siblings and with my older sisters, and I was always in the gym. You know, at an early age, you don't really know, you know, like what you're working on, or like, you know, being in the gym is just being in the gym. You're getting shots up, you know, you're playing against other people your age, sizing them up a little bit. But for me, I knew that I seen the growth in my siblings and the time that they put in, and I just knew that if I could do anything else, was just to kind of reciprocate that same work ethic and that, you know, that same passion, that same grind as them. And so that's something that that's where I started, was just putting the work in and just being in the gym in general, which, you know, it did pay off. It taught me the grind, the work ethic, you know, how much time you needed to put in the gym to be, you know, an elite player, an elite, you know, basketball player. I think, I mean, with that being said, I think one thing I would do differently is not spend as much time in the gym at an early age, you know. 'Cause for me, it's just basketball has been my life. It's been I've put everything else kind of around basketball, around the game of basketball and what that entails. And looking back on it, I wish I wouldn't have spent so much time, doing that. I didn't really have a chance to be a kid in a sense. Everything was just basketball, basketball, basketball. Whether it's traveling to AAU tournaments, going from practice to practice, or going from open gym to open gym, like that was my life. And so I wish I would have given myself an opportunity to do other things that kids and middle schoolers, adolescents should do, while they're growing up.
I know you kind of touched on in there about having like more of a balance.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I played different sports,
Mm-hmm.
but once I hit like junior high, it was like, all right, basketball is the one that's all my time.
Right.
Where was the age of you? Was there any other sports or was it basketball from day one and that's it?
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly funny. I dabbled in soccer a little bit, but the only reason when I played soccer was to kind of become more agile, become more quick laterally, and
It was all for basketball.
This was all for basketball. I was playing soccer, but and shout out to my dad for that. He kind of instilled that into me, the game of soccer, just for basketball. But yeah, it was just to become kind of get one up on my fellow peers and the fellow basketball players that were out there around me in the city. But yeah, it was simply for basketball, and I did grow and find a love for soccer, and I still enjoy it to this day. But yeah, I mean, I probably played for about, probably like 4 or 5 years, kind of like in that 4th grade to like 8th grade range, where I was just playing in the off season of basketball, still doing basketball stuff, on top of soccer as well. But it was all for, in the long run. I mean, in the end game, it was all for basketball. So yeah.
So kind of getting, as we move along with your high school career,
Mm-hmm.
your junior year, you guys were number 1 in the nation. No, I'm sorry, number 1 in the state.
Senior year,
number 1 in the state. What year?
Junior year, we were awful. Junior, we were bad.
What year did you you had your first surgery on your ankle?
So that would have been the end of my sophomore year of high school. Yeah, so going into that summer, I was playing basketball, kind of like an open gym. A bunch of guys from the city kind of got together. And, we were playing. I went up for a dunk. This is back when I had bounce. I got no bounce now. But went up for a dunk. There was some contact in the air. Ended up missing the dunk. All my momentum was going forward, so I kind of tried to swing on the rim a little bit to kind of get myself back vertical so I could make a safe landing. Didn't do that. Slipped off the rim and tried to brace myself. Didn't go well at all. Broke my ankle. Had a little tib-fib fracture and ended up having to have surgery. Minor surgery, I mean, in the grand scheme of things compared to the the past 2 surgeries that I've had, but had to get some screws, some pins put in, and yeah.
Did that moment, just as being a 16-year-old, was that the weight of that in that situation? How I guess, looking back on younger you, the way you reacted that and kind of bounced back from that to make you the player that you are today, did that prepare you for, I guess, the next level of college in any way, or the injuries that you would go through and then end up getting back on the court again?
I mean, back then, bro, you're so young, you're so, you're just very juvenile, your body's still growing, you're still maturing. So I think for me, I knew that, I had youth on my side, and I knew that something like this wouldn't really affect me in the long run. So I just kind of clung on to that idea of that, hey, I'm still young, like I have a little bone fracture, this bone's going to heal, it's going to make me stronger, but it really didn't prepare me for, the later injuries that, were unforeseen, that were soon to come. But yeah, I mean, it was just like another thing where it's like, hey, like, this is part of the game. Tons of players around the world, they undergo these injuries, and I thought this was just my time. Like, you play so much, you spend so much time around the game of basketball, and you're so involved in the sport that injuries are bound to occur. So for me at that time, I was just like, hey, this is just my time.
Yeah. See, I felt like I always had a fear of like I never had a significant injury really until I got to college, and so I was like, in my head I was like, all right, when's it gonna happen?
Yeah.
And like I didn't know how I was gonna respond to it, and like my first big injury. I mean, I guess I broke my finger in my right hand, but like you said, you're young.
Yeah.
You
think nothing of it.
Nothing of it. The next week we were on spring break in Florida, and like it's just like whatever. Like it's just a different mindset. Being here at college, our freshman year, we really did. Coach Rowe talks about you don't know where the line's at when you get thrown into the den.
100%, yeah.
And from the times of the early struggles of struggling on basketball court wise, and for me falling out of bed on a fire alarm and telling you I broke my kneecap, and you're looking
crazy.
at me saying like,
that was crazy.
Let's just get out of here, bro. Like the fire alarm's going.
Yeah.
So there's been tons of growth, but like when you came into college, what was the biggest difference on a basketball standpoint that you were like, oh, like this is gonna take a little extra like focus, whether that be practice, school, or anything.
Man, so I think just in all my years of being involved in athletics, I've always hung my hat on speed. Like I feel like that, I mean, still to this day, that's one of my greatest gifts. That's like probably my best attribute on the basketball court. It's just being a lot quicker. I'm a lot faster than everybody else on the court. And so I feel like coming into college, I didn't really think that the speed of the game was really going to affect me. However, you get to this level, this collegiate level, and speed really isn't all that important. You get here and you have players who are a lot faster than you. I mean, a lot slower than you. Maybe not as quick, maybe not as athletic, but they're still popping off for 25 a game. And you got like a dude who's probably 20, 25 pounds heavier than you and like looks a little bigger. Doesn't look athletic at all, but this dude's still getting off. Like he's still giving you 20, and he's popping off on any given conference night. And so for me, like it took a few games into our freshman year where like I had to realize that I might be a lot faster than everybody else, but this world of pace and this world of playing at a different speed, quote unquote, than everybody else is really what sets you apart from everybody else. And so that idea of pace and playing at your own speed and kind of affecting the game that way was something that I took note of early on in our freshman year and realized that like this is the real deal. Like this is something that I need to adapt and kind of learn from and kind of implement into my own game.
Was there a player, not anyone on our team, our freshman year, was there a player that you played against and you were kind of like I want to steal some stuff from that dude because he busted mine?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so I'm a point guard, obviously. Yeah. I mean, we know that. I mean, man, coming in as a freshman, we had a lot of good point guards, a lot of good combo guards within the league. So I can name Travion Cruz from Bethel. He's a menace, just an absolute terror. Played at his own speed, had a nice little, had a nice build to him, nice frame. Wasn't overly athletic, but he knew how to use his body. He knew how to change direction, change pace, and because of that, he affected the game very, very well. Paul Marendet from Spring Arbor, he's another guard who just knew his pace, knew his speed. I mean, Kyle Mangus, we could talk about him forever. He wasn't really a point guard, but I mean, we're gonna talk about pace and talk about speed. I think he might take the crown for that. So different guys like that, and what was interesting for me is, you could go from the top of the league to the bottom of the league. And regardless, you have different guards who were able to really affect the game in a lot of different ways simply off of their pace and just off of how they played and how they moved on the court. So, yeah, those three guys for sure. I mean, we can get to a lot of different dudes too. I mean, what's the kid from Huntington? Shooter.
Oh,
Platt.
Yeah.
Platt was a dog. He knew how to
Wow.
He knew how to carve up the defense. But yeah, so.
Yeah.
Those two for sure, and that's just within the conference.
That's just
I mean,
within the conference.
we played a lot of good non-conference schools as well, and they had guys just as capable of affecting the game too. So, yeah.
Halfway through the freshman year,
Mm-hmm.
you go down ACL.
Yeah.
Process. I'm with you. I'm seeing all the struggles you went through,
Mm-hmm.
just like as anyone would through that whole entire process.
Mm-hmm.
Come back. Rise, you're about to get back. This is my first year on the court, where I'm running the point guard, which is not my thing, but I'm running it.
Yeah.
And
Did a good job at it though.
yeah, I tried.
You did well.
You're getting ready to come back, and boom, Achilles.
Yeah.
I guess like the biggest thing from this podcast that I want people that watch it that see is like the reason you're my first person on this podcast is because I've never met someone who just got up the next day and took care of the shit they had to take care of.
Mm-hmm.
And so you go through that one, boom, that's a first injury was 9 months.
Yeah.
Second one turned out to be 12.
Yeah.
In there, what made you get up every day, even on the hard days, and said, I'm going to get back and I'm going to be a starter in this league?
Man, I think even coming in as a freshman, we talked about, Coach Rowe and I talked about it. I mean, even you and I talked about, like, man, like, I'm here, I'm in the mix, I'm in the rotation of, a pretty dang good basketball program within the NAIA world. But I have yet to scratch the surface of my potential as a basketball player. And for me, going through those injuries, I was just like, I'll be damned if I let, these injuries prevent me from reaching that potential, reaching that surface, And I don't want this to be an excuse for me to, discredit or throw all the work, all the tears, all the pain, all the blood that I put into this game of basketball. Like, I don't want to let these injuries, be my out to quit. And I kept that in mind. And we talk about our dreams and our passion as far as the game of basketball and where we would like for this sport to take us. And I have dreams of playing professional. I think that's every basketball player at some point. Like, that's your dream, that's your goal. It's like, I want to get to that next level. We accomplished the goal of playing collegiate ball after high school, and so the next step for that is getting paid for it. And so I knew in the back of my mind, like I still have this goal, I still have this dream that I want to achieve, as far as playing at that next level. And I still want, that's still in front of me. That's still possible for me despite these injuries. You keep up with these NBA players and these pro ball players now, even college players who go through injuries, and you see what they do to overcome that and still are able to accomplish great things on the floor. And then, like, in turn, like, you see how they develop into such good people of character outside of the game of basketball. And I wanted to use, instead of turning these injuries into excuses to kind of digress, I wanted to use these injuries as a platform for me to progress and become the best,
transform
the best. Yeah, just to transform me, man, to become the best version of myself. And I mean, I'm saying that now, but going through it, going through it in the moment, in the heat of everything, like, it's hard to keep that same vision. But I kind of reminded myself of those things, and that's ultimately what got me through it, for sure.
Oh, yeah, when you in it, sometimes you can't see the light.
Oh no, you don't even think the light's possible.
Yeah.
Like, even getting to that point to even see it, like, it's
That first, I think for me, was that first PT session after surgery. That's where, like, it's amazing. Like, wow, I got a long ways to go.
Yeah, man.
Now, it's also, like, really, it can be also super encouraging because you're like, wow, I'm starting to do stuff.
Right.
But, like, when you really look at it, it's like for me, I was like, man, I'm moving my toes right now.
Yeah,
I'm supposed to get back this season.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it can be very just kind of just like a really bad feeling where you're like, look, I know I'm capable of making this 48-inch box jump. Like I can do that. I've done it before. I've done it 500 times before. But like you get out of PT and you can't even do a calf raise. You know what I mean? Like that stuff can be very.
Yeah.
It can really mess with your mental, and so like I know how that feels, and it's, to me it's just like, it's that challenge. Like it gives you that fresh slate as far as a new task to overcome, and really, like, yeah, like I said, we put in this time, we put in this work to become this specific kind of player, and it's just like, all right, well, let's see where that work truly pays off. In this first PT session, like how is this really gonna pan out, and is this work really gonna come to fruition?
Yeah. So taking this past year,
Mm-hmm.
you just played your first full college season.
First full college season, man.
And I know we'll talk about it, and there's always things that you're gonna say, oh, I feel like I could have done that better or this better.
Yeah.
But take away the perfectionism.
Okay. I'll try.
Try.
I'll try.
When you sit down and you look back at literally every hurdle that you had to go through,
Mm-hmm.
what were your thoughts after the last game?
Mm-hmm.
Was there any thoughts of like, just you did it? Was there a pleasing feeling that you're like you got over the hurdle that that you felt like you couldn't get over for 2 years?
I mean, simply making it through the finish line.
Yeah.
In one piece.
Mm-hmm.
You have nicks and bumps and bruises. I mean, any basketball player is gonna have those. But for me, coming in as my first full season, after three years of competing in a college game, I just wanted to be able to make it through the season. Like I knew, my full basketball instincts, or making a read, or knowing when I should take this shot or when I should pass it. I knew that was going to come with time, but I knew my biggest goal coming in this past season was just be healthy. Like just complete a season, stay healthy, and let's see how your body holds up, and then everything else will come with time. Like with the reps and with the games, with the practices, like all those instincts and like that natural feel that you have as a hooper, like that's gonna come back. But
and I think what at least is when I was a young hooper, a lot of young hoopers that might watch this, or even people that are older,
mm-hmm.
patience and like being okay in the moment that like, hey, like I'm not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the toughest things to just
absolutely.
be okay with.
Yeah.
Being able to just to lay your head down. When people that really care about being like, they love basketball, mm-hmm. or they love golf or baseball, whatever it is,
mm-hmm.
that when you're training and you're trying to transform over an off season,
mm-hmm.
you have to be okay with failing.
Yeah.
But then the second thing is, you can't fail on Monday and decide to pick it up again on Friday.
Mm.
Like there has to be, as you talked about, one thing that you did since you were young was a consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Like you were constantly touching the basketball, constantly doing this.
Yeah.
And I think you talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that people, especially younger guys, can struggle with. And I know I struggled with it.
Yeah.
Of sometimes looking so far ahead to the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
But what about these next 3 days?
Yeah.
Like what can we get done these next 3 days?
Yeah. Just being okay with not being okay.
Yeah.
You hear this cliche. I mean, cliche, not cliche. I mean, I don't care. However you feel about it. It's just that mantra of disrupting your comfort zone, and just, I mean, you take it for what it is, but like that has so much value in the transformation of you as a person and you as a player.
Mm-hmm.
Just truly, and like honestly, genuinely get into a place where you're like, okay, like today, my second week of PT, second week of recovery, like I'm not okay right now.
Yeah.
Like I'm not okay, but like I know that this is a stepping stone. I'm getting 1% better right now.
I'm gonna get there.
And I will get there eventually, but like I think just having that recognition of I'm not okay right now, and that's all right, but I know in the long run, like I will be okay. And I think it takes a very mature person and a very comfortable person within themselves to be able to come to that realization and understand that I'm not okay right now, and I just have to be consistent, bro. I just got to be I have to be committed to this grind and this uphill battle of getting back, not even getting back to who I was, but being better than who I was before.
So there's two. We'll wrap up with this. If there's two habits that you would sit down and say, the two things that you've learned, and two things that you or things that you may do now that allows you to continually just get better and better, knowing that you might have a couple dips like anything, but start your summer here, end your summer here. What are those couple things that you may not even know you live by, but as you think about it?
I think for one, we talked about balance and kind of what that looks like. We've talked about I think we talked about this year about being a goldfish and having a short-term memory in a sense after a workout or after a game especially. But this has been very instrumental in my growth as a person and in my character. In terms of balance, it's just recognizing the game of basketball is awesome. We love it. I even told I just explained how it's been a huge part of my life, still is a part of my life, but at the end of the day, it isn't my full identity. That's not who I am. That's not all that I am. So I think you have a good workout, you have a bad workout. Recognize that, kind of soak that in for the time being, but then you got to move on, bro. You got to move on, and it's about that next day. How can I get that much better in that next day? And I think kind of adopting that mindset, that's been huge for me this year. And obviously going through PT and going through those surgeries and all that was huge for me. Man, another habit, I don't know. Let's see. What's a habit you got? What's a habit that's been huge for you?
I think one thing that, and I'll talk more about it on here, is I started last summer. I would write down my entire workout before I worked out. And I think a lot of times, especially I don't know about other sports, but as a basketball player, I think we can get caught up in what am I going to do next, and how much am I doing of it now. Why am I doing this? Did I think before, and what exact drill that I want that's going to allow me to grow? The way I see it is a head coach never comes into practice without a practice plan.
100%. Yeah.
I think a lot of times players go into a workout without a workout plan. And that is where I bridge the gap of, all right, if I have a why behind why I'm doing all these drills and why I'm shooting this type of shot, working on this type of move, why am I shooting 50 reps of 50 footers, 30 footers, maybe 50 footers, and then why am I working on these exact finishes? Instead of if I don't ask those questions and I don't figure out the why, then I think my growth is going to be slower.
Yeah.
And that's my habit.
No, for sure. I don't know if this would be necessarily considered a habit, but I think definitely early on in our college careers, I struggled with this whole thing of comparison and comparing my growth and my success to and what's crazy is it wouldn't even necessarily be other players that we've competed against. It could be my own teammates where it's just man, this guy's improving and this guy's looking like this right now, and I'm here. What am I doing wrong? Why am I not there? What's going on? Am I doing something wrong? Am I not working hard enough? Or what does that look like? And I think a lot of that just comes from the media, social media. You keep up with players around the league. You keep up with players who are in the pros and players who are currently going through the same stuff that you're going through. I talk about Klay Thompson a lot just because, he tore his ACL, I tore my ACL, he ruptured his Achilles, I ruptured my Achilles. And, I'm just man, how do I get to that point that Klay Thompson is at? And just that concept of comparison will eat you up.
Yeah.
Like it'll swallow you up and it'll shit you out.
Yeah.
Flat like that. You know what I mean? So so I don't know if this is necessarily a habit, but you know, I have these periods of time where I have to kind of do some self-evaluation, some self-reflection, and kind of eliminate these outside, exterior factors of am I comparing myself to someone else? If I am, then I need to shut that down right then and there and put that to the side and never touch that again. You know, so whether that's getting rid of Instagram, getting rid of Twitter, or journaling for a sense. You know what I mean? Like reflecting on my thoughts. Like what's my thought process looking like? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's necessarily a habit, but that's
yeah.
definitely something that I've kind of locked into over the course of these years. And
maturity.
Yeah, it is maturity, man. It's all maturity.
Well, I appreciate it, dog.
Yeah.
Episode number 1.
Episode 1,
I'm
man.
praying that it all is on there. I have a bad feeling, but
yeah. I appreciate it, man. I'm glad I was number 1. That means a lot to me. I mean, I know we're best friends, and you know we've been rooming together for 4 years, but I just appreciate it. I know it's beyond this, and I'm glad to be number 1.